Number 1a is 16. Okay, 1a is 16. 1b, however, is what? 11. Because you're substituting -2 in for x. So -2 squared plus 7. Remember, when you're squaring a negative, it becomes positive. So 4 plus 7 gives you 11. Good. For C, good, is 4. You had to do f of 2 first. So you have -1. And you look at the letter to determine what function you're going to use. Then we have x equals 3. Okay. Any questions on number 1? You okay? All right. Number 2, good, excellent. 2a is 4. 2b is 9. An excellent, excellent job. X equals 9 and -1. Why are there 2 answers? Yeah, Liz.
Because it could also equal -5 and then squaring that would make it positive.
Good. So anytime you are setting equal or taking the square root of either side, okay, when you're solving, you must include 2 solutions. Okay? Anytime you are solving by taking the square root, you're going to have plus or minus. Okay? All right, now, absolute value. You would not have plus or minus in your final answer. Okay? So when you're just inputting h of 8, it's 8 plus 4, which is 12. The absolute value of 12 is just 12. Okay? Then for h of -7, -7 plus 4 is -3. The absolute value of -3 is just 3. Okay? When it's set equal to a number, a positive number, this is, again, where you have 2 equations. You have x plus 4 equals 5, which was the original, and then x plus 4 equals -5 is the other one, where you end up with 1 and -9. Okay? Excellent. Okay, so this whole part, number 4, okay? We have 2 functions, f of x equals x squared minus 1, and g of x is x plus 4. So this notation means f of x plus g of x. Okay, it means the same thing. All right, so f plus g of x means f of x plus g of x. So you take x squared minus 1 plus x plus 4. Okay, since you're adding, we're not distributing or anything like that. We are combining like terms. So x squared plus x plus 3 would be your final answer. Okay, we're just keeping it as is. We're not going any further. Okay, so f plus g of x is the same thing as f of x plus g of x. Okay, and the same thing applies for b. You are subtracting, so it's f of x minus g of x. So all of these, we're not inputting a number at all. So we're going to end up with an expression. Okay, but above, we inputted a number, ended up with a number. Here, we are taking x squared minus 1 minus x plus 4. Before I combine, what do you have to do first? What do we have to do first? Distribute the negative. So we have x squared minus 1 minus x minus 4. So you have to distribute the negative all the way through. So you have x squared minus x minus 5. Okay? So what's happening in C? What are you doing here? Julia? Good. We're multiplying f of x with g of x. So x squared minus 1 and x plus 4. So we have to distribute the x squared all the way through and -1 and then combine like terms. So those of you that know or have heard of FOIL, your first terms, x cubed, your outer inner, and negative 4, your last. Okay? This is where first, outer, inner, last. Okay? When you're multiplying two binomials. Okay? So the first part, 1, 2, and 3, we should be very good at. Correct? I would hope at this point. Okay? Function notation. We have seen it before. We did it with sequences. We have incorporated it through characteristics. Okay? What is new for you guys? It's called composition of functions. Okay? Composition of functions is new. All right? So there's two types of notation. We have, this is how you read it, f of g of x, okay? F of g of x, sometimes you could be given a number or just the value of x. What also means composition is this open circle, okay? That open circle means composition, okay? Now, order matters in terms of composition, okay? So it's on the next page where I have it, but you want to work inside out. So if we go to the next page, okay, order of composition is key. So if I was to give you f of g of 3, okay, if I was to give you f of g of 3, you work on g of 3 first, get that value. Once you receive that value, you then plug it into the f function, okay? So you're substituting twice, all right? First inside, get that value, and substitute it to the outside equation, okay? That's what composition is, all right? So if you input a value, you will end up with a value. If you input an expression, you will end up with an expression. We're not solving, okay? So we're going to look at a few different things here, okay? So first is just our function notation. Then we'll get to composition. So f of x squared, will I end up with a value or an expression? Expression, okay? So f of x squared means I'm inputting x squared into the f function for x. So we have negative 1/2 times x squared minus 4. Okay, so our final answer is negative 1/2 x squared minus 4. That's all we're doing. We're just substituting in x squared. Okay. Now if we look at b, will we end up with a value or an expression? Value. Okay. So again, we're doing the f function again. So negative 1/2 times 4 minus 4. Okay. Negative 1/2 times 4 is what? Negative 4, thank you. 2, positive 2, good. Okay, so 2 minus 4 is what? Negative 2. Excellent. Okay, started with a value, ended with a value. Okay, so here's where you have composition of functions. Okay, it's f of g of x. Okay, so that means we're taking this whole g of x function and substituting it into the x of the f function. So are we going to end up with a value or an expression? Expression. Okay. So if I wanted to rewrite this, it would be f of x squared minus 2x plus 3. Okay, I just replaced g of x with the g of x actual function. Okay, so now I'm going to take negative 1/2, input my g of x function, okay. So I inputted my g of x function into the x of the f function. So now I want to distribute. Okay. Negative 1/2 x squared. What's negative 1/2 times negative 2? 1. Okay. negative 1/2 times 3. Negative 3/2, right? Minus 4. Okay. Yep.
Wait, I thought we weren't.
Why? Because it said do not, I want you guys to distribute here. Just because it said you do not need to solve or simplify, it makes, we should be simplifying. Okay? We should be simplifying here by distributing it all the way through. Okay? Now, what can I do? Yeah, Joan. Okay. So I have negative 1/2 x squared plus x. How would I combine this? Okay. But in order to subtract, what do I need? No decimals. I don't want decimals. When you're dealing with fractions and you need to subtract, what do you need? 4/1, okay. Common denominator, which would be 2. So we have negative 3/2 minus what? 8/2. So we have negative 1/2 x squared plus x minus 11/2. That would be your final answer. Okay. This is extreme with the with the fractions, but we should know this. We should know how to rewrite or get to a common denominator. We should know that. Okay. So not simplifying or solving, and I wish I took that out, defeats the whole purpose of what we're trying to do. Okay? So we are trying to simplify our expressions. Alright? So I want you to try D and E. Okay? Give D and E a try if you haven't done so already. For G of 1, what do we have? Do we end up with a value or an expression? Value. And what is it? 2. So we have G of 1 squared minus 2 times 1 gives you 2. Excellent. For E, what do I end up with? An expression. Go ahead, Mia. Good. Okay. How many of you did get that? Okay. So now we have composition again, but it's G of f of 8. Are we going to end up with a value or an expression? Value. Good. So we first want to work inside out. F of 8. So we have negative 1/2 times 8 minus 4. What do we end up with? Yeah. Negative 8. Good. So then we take negative 8 and substitute it into the G function. So G of negative 8. And this will be your final answer. G of negative 8. Negative 8 squared minus 2 times negative 8 plus 3. Oh, how do we get E? So it's the f of the x plus 2 here. Okay. So we have negative 1/2 x plus 2. What was it? Minus 4. Okay. So you distribute negative 1/2 x, negative 1/2 times 2 is negative 1, and then minus 4. That's how you get with that. Okay? So for F, what is our answer? 83? Yes, no, maybe so? Okay. We have 64 plus 16 plus 3, okay, in order to get 83, which is correct. Okay? All right. So now we have a few more examples. All right. You guys are going to give these a try. Remember the open circle. Okay? Same notation. F of G of 3, they mean the same thing. You will see both. Okay? F of G of X. So for you, if it's easier to remember, okay, you can rewrite it, but make sure we write it the right way. All right? So now you're given three functions, F, G, and H. Okay? Go ahead. I'll give you about 6 minutes. Go ahead. What do we have for a final answer? What do we have for A? Yeah, Mike. 4x plus 9. Are we all good with that one? Okay. How about B? I'm going to do G of 3 first. So we should have got -9 for G of 3. Then F of -9 would be what? Yeah, Jake. -31. Good. Be careful with the negative. So you have to square first and then tack on the negative. Okay, so that's why you should have gotten F of -9 to plug in. Okay, how about C? Liz? Positive or negative?
Oh, negative.
Squared plus 5. Are we good? Okay. Now we get to D, E, and F, which can be a little tricky. So you have to do F of X into the G of X function. So we have -4x plus 5 squared. You want to square this guy first before you distribute the negative. So when you're squaring it, it's 4x plus 5 times 4x plus 5. Okay, so you get 16x squared plus 40x plus 25. Your final answer, you then distribute the negative. Okay? Alright, so just double check, make sure we're all good. Are we all okay? 4x times 5 is 20. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 20 is 40. Okay? How about E? What did we get for E? Michael? -144 is correct. Okay, are we okay? All right, F. Jonah? Careful. Go ahead.
X squared plus 2x plus 1 with
Say that again?
6, and then x squared plus 2x plus 1.
Okay. Anybody else? Addie?
6x plus 6.
Okay. Michael?
3x squared plus 2x
Okay. Minus 4x plus 6. So it's 2x squared minus 4x plus 6, right? All right, so we're everywhere we see an x, we're substituting -3x. Okay. Here, the exponent has to go to both. Okay? So you have 9x squared plus 12x plus 6. You have 18x squared plus 12x plus 6. Hmm?
Got that, but that's how I was thinking.
It's right here.
You're okay. You're okay. Okay. So your yeah, Jason. C. Go back to C. Okay. So C is we take the g of x function and substitute it into the f of x function. So it's 4 times negative x squared plus 5. So here's different because you're just multiplying these guys together. Okay? Yeah, Mike?
Whenever it says like F, like F, like for H, you change it to F, G3, like Y.
So this means the same thing as this.
Like I don't, you would, if it was G, if G and F switched to that,
Uh-huh.
would it be G?
It would be different. Yep. So this notation, right, looks like this, right? But if I had this is different. Okay, it's reversed. Great question. Okay. Any questions on this so far? Okay. It's just being careful how to enter, okay, what you're substituting in and what you're looking for. Okay. With equations, that's one. Then we also do it with graphs and tables. Okay. So the last two before lunch, okay, again, same thing. This is your f of x function. This is your g of x function. So you first want to do f of negative 1, which is what? Look at the f graph. F of negative 1 is where? 1. So then we have to find g of 1. So we go to the g graph. And what do we get? Negative 4. So your final answer is negative 4. Okay. For b, what do you have to find first? G of 7. So G of 7 is 0. Then we have to find F of 0, which is 1. Good. All right. No. G of 2, 0. F of, so then G of 2 is 0. Then we find F of 0, 1. Then what do we do? Which is? That's your answer. Okay? So you could see these as well. Okay? Multiple compositions happening. All right? On that note, go to lunch. So if we look at our table, okay, they're giving us two functions, f of x and g of x, okay? But now we're going to look at the table. Before we looked at the graph, now we're looking at two different tables. So we have f of g of 36. What do we have to find first? G of 36. Okay. So we have g of 36, which is what value? 6. Now we have to find what? F of 6, which is 21. Let's see answer that. Okay. Now we have g of 16. So what do we do first? G of 16, which is? And then 4, which is? 2. Good. Okay. Now let's look at g of f of 4. So f of 4 is what? 1. Then g of 1? Good. Okay. F of 4 would be what? Okay, so we have f of 4, which is 1. Then f of 1 is negative 14. Good. Excellent. Okay. So today we did function notation and composition. Okay. If you look around, the blue that you see around is a walk around. Okay. Kind of scavenger hunt puzzle situation. going on. All right, so I have different partners. We're going to change it up a bit. Okay, it's random. All right. When you are signed with your partner, okay, you and your partner will start at, pick whatever letter you want to, but give yourself some room. Okay. So, say if you start at this one here. Okay. When you're starting at this one, you go through and do the composition. Okay. Once you find that answer, okay, you're writing it here. So you're starting with whatever letter is given to you, okay? And do out the problem and then the answer. Then you go look around for the answer and that's the next letter you start with, okay? Make sense? Okay, it's very on the sheet. Yep.